CM Punk has spent years brushing off retirement questions, but his latest comments sounded very different. After months of rumors and speculation about his future, Punk admitted he's nearing the end of his career. But it was what he hinted about the situation behind the scenes that really got fans talking. Let me catch you up. CM Punk hasn't appeared on WWE TV since the Raw after WrestleMania 42, where he came face-to-face with Cody Rhodes just one night after losing the World Heavyweight Championship to Roman Reigns. That's the last image fans have of him. Not going out on his shield in some war with a rival. Not cutting a promo so electric it broke the internet. Just a man standing in a ring, staring at the next champion, and then walking away. Punk lost his World Heavyweight Championship to Roman Reigns at night 2 of WrestleMania 42. The night after, he had a brief interaction with WWE champion Cody Rhodes in the ring. Rhodes told Punk, "Just say when," regarding a future title match, and Punk, he said nothing that anyone could remember. He let the moment breathe, he walked into the back, and then he was gone. At that point, fans expected WWE to move him straight into a new major storyline. Instead, Punk has been completely absent from WWE programming ever since, with no on-air explanation given by the company. No injury announcement, no hiatus segment, no farewell promo, nothing. The man who once stood in the middle of the ring and told Vince McMahon's company he was the best in the world just stopped showing up. It's been nearly 2 months since CM Punk last appeared on WWE programming, leading to speculation among fans that he's planning another exit from the company. And look, if you've followed this man's career for any length of time, you know that this is not a new feeling. Every time Punk goes quiet, a wave of dread washes over his fan base because they've seen it before. They know what it looks like when he's checking out. They know the warning signs. Punk didn't show up for WWE Backlash 2026 weekend and was also missing from the May 11 episode of Raw in Knoxville, Tennessee. Even as WWE began building toward both WWE Clash in Italy and Saturday night's main event later in the month, there had been speculation online that Punk might appear at Backlash as the mystery partner for Danhausen, but that never happened. Every week that passed with no Punk was another log on the fire. Every show he missed was another reason for people to go back to the forums and start typing. PW Insider is reporting that Punk is still expected to return before SummerSlam 2026, but the growing length of his absence has become a major concern for the Raw brand. WWE has offered no timeline and no official reason for why its former World Heavyweight Champion has been kept off television for this long. That vacuum of information is exactly where rumors live and multiply. And multiply they did. Punk unsuccessfully challenged Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania Sunday, with Reigns emerging victorious to capture the title. Since then, social media has been flooded with unverified reports, claiming there is tension between Punk and WWE, with some rumors even suggesting that the former world champion had requested his release from the company. The release rumors, here we go again. The internet does what the internet does. It takes a silence, fills it with the worst possible explanation, and then shares that explanation as gospel. Within days, there were reports flying around Twitter and Reddit that Punk had gone nuclear backstage, that he'd had a blow-up, that he'd told somebody in management to go to hell, that this time, he was really done. One of the rumors that began swirling around is that Punk and WWE had some sort of issue that led to the wrestler wanting out of the company, despite being under contract. But here's where it gets interesting, because the story goes deeper than a contract dispute. It touches on his wife. It touches on the very fabric of what Punk said he came back to WWE to do. And it connects directly to something he said on camera months earlier, something that told us exactly what kind of headspace he was in before any of the WrestleMania chaos, before the rumors, before the silence. Punk had already started hinting that the clock was ticking. Speaking with WWE's digital team during his recent tour of Japan, Punk got candid and sentimental about how much time he may have left in the ring, pointing to how big of a year this had been for wrestling retirements. "So I'm standing here now, near the end of my career," he said. "You know, John Cena's calling it quits. AJ Styles says he's going to retire next year. And I don't know how much time I've got left. That was CM Punk, the World Heavyweight Champion, saying out loud what fans had feared for years. Not a rumor, not a report from a source who requested anonymity. The man himself, on camera, near the end. He followed it up with a line that's become somewhat of a rallying cry. For anyone hoping he keeps going, "I'm going to keep going until the wheels fall off." But even that line has a different energy when the guy saying it just lost his title, vanished from TV, and has an entire wrestling internet convinced he's about to walk again. Given the many backstage issues Punk had in AEW, there was plenty of speculation about how long he would be happy in WWE. And now those old questions were back loudly from every corner of the wrestling world, because when you've watched this man's career, really watched it, you know that the pattern of discontent doesn't announce itself. It creeps, it goes quiet. And then one day, you wake up and Punk's gone. CM Punk returned to WWE at Elimination Chamber 2023 and managed to add more accolades to his resume since then. Following a run in AEW, Punk made his surprise return to WWE in November 2023, ending a nearly decade-long hiatus from the company. That return felt like a moment of genuine peace between a man and an institution that had treated each other badly for a very long time. The crowd lost their minds. Punk looked like he meant it. And for a while, a long while actually, he delivered on every promise that return made. Punk has won 7 world championships over his 2 tenures with WWE, 5 world heavyweight titles, and 2 WWE titles. He's also a 1-time ROH World Champion and captured the AEW World Championship twice during his tenure there. The body of work is undeniable. The resume reads like something you'd see at a Hall of Fame ceremony. And yet, here we are. Title lost, screen time gone, rumors everywhere, and a ticking clock that Punk himself set into motion with his own words. Ever since John Cena began his retirement tour that ended in December, CM Punk has faced questions about when his career may come to a close. His responses had been somewhat vague, but in new comments, the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion provided an actual number for the age at which he could look to hang up his boots. I would estimate probably the big 50 is when I should maybe gracefully bow out, Punk told Cinema Blend. He's 47 right now. 50 isn't some abstract future. It's 3 years away. And when you layer that retirement admission on top of a vanishing act and a title loss and a WWE, that's saying nothing. The fear starts to feel very real. In a defiant interview before WrestleMania 42, veteran WWE superstar CM Punk firmly stated that he had no plans to retire anytime soon, dismissing persistent rumors about his impending departure from the company. At 47 years old, Punk was set to headline his 2nd consecutive WrestleMania, defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Roman Reigns. Punk's refusal to entertain retirement talks came as a surprise to many fans, who had speculated about the aging star's future. He was on top champion, main eventing the biggest show in wrestling for the 2nd year in a row, and yet, even in that moment of triumph, people couldn't stop asking when it was going to end. That says everything about how precarious Punk's reputation for longevity has always been. He carries this cloud with him, this sense that every run could be the last one, that every good stretch is borrowed time. Punk recently graced the cover of the upcoming WWE 2K26 video game, which he says solidifies the consistency of his career. In a Shake Wrestling interview, he described the game's showcase mode as a story that spans his entire career, emphasizing that the end is not near. He said that, "The end is not near." And then he lost the title, and then he disappeared. And now the end feels closer than it's ever been. When a superstar returns to WWE, there is almost always unfinished business. While CM Punk had done it all, there was one thing he still hadn't done. In the Stamford-based promotion when he left the company in 2014, he had not main evented WrestleMania. That was the goal, the stated mission. the thing that pulled him back into that machine after he'd sworn it off. He wanted to stand on the biggest stage in wrestling, as the top name on the card, and prove something to himself and everybody else. He had previously main evented WrestleMania 41's Night 1 against Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns in a triple threat match. Once WrestleMania 42 was done, he had main evented both nights. He did it. Both of them. 2 consecutive years. Mission accomplished. Which is exactly why the question hanging over everything right now feels so uncomfortable. Because when a man achieves what he came back to do, what exactly is left to keep him there? With stars like John Cena and AJ Styles leaving, it led to CM Punk getting questions about potentially retiring from in-ring competition. After nearly 30 years in the business, 2025 and 2026 have seen a litany of legends hanging up their boots for good. And there's something unavoidable about watching your peers walk away. It changes the math. In a way that nothing else does. When it's just one guy retiring, it's his story. When it's 3, 5, 10 guys in a generation, it starts to feel like a tide going out. And you have to decide whether you're going to swim against it or let it take you. Punk chose to swim. For a while. And the swimming was good. Championship reigns, WrestleMania, main events, merchandise numbers that put him above everybody else in the building. But now the water feels different. He's not on TV. The internet is on fire. And the things he said about his own future, months before any of this, have aged in a way that nobody was ready for. CM Punk retired from professional wrestling in 2014 after becoming disillusioned with WWE. During that time, Punk pursued a career as a mixed martial arts fighter and signed with the UFC, where he lost 2 professional fights. After a 7-year break from professional wrestling, Punk returned to the industry in 2021 to sign with Tony Khan's AEW promotion. The first exit left scars on everyone. The fans felt abandoned, the company felt betrayed, and Punk himself, by his own account, walked away a broken man who needed years to even want to think about wrestling again. The AEW run was its own disaster in slow motion. A second exit, messier in different ways, and then WWE. The return everyone said would never happen. So when you hear that Punk has gone quiet again, when you hear the whispers about backstage tension, when you read that he may have been frustrated enough to push for changes to stick up for his wife in a way that rattled the wrong people, you understand why the fear is so acute. Because the history is there, the pattern is there, and the man himself told you in his own voice that he's near the end. The question is, what exactly pushed him to this point? What happened in the months between that triumphant championship reign and the silence that followed? Because the story doesn't start with WrestleMania 42, it starts much earlier, with a return that nobody saw coming, a title run that built something real, and a set of circumstances that conspired piece by piece to bring him to that moment, where he stood in a ring after a loss, looked at the next champion, and walked away without saying a word. To understand where Punk is now, you have to understand where he was, how he got back, what drove him, and what, over time, might have started to wear him down. That story starts with the man himself, and with a version of Punk that for the first time in a very long time, looked genuinely happy in a wrestling ring. Following a run in AEW, Punk made his surprise return to WWE in November 2023, ending a nearly decade-long hiatus from the company. The crowd that night didn't just cheer, they exploded. The kind of pop that shakes the building in your chest. The kind that makes production people in the back look at the decibel meters and then look at each other. It had been years, a whole chapter of professional wrestling, a whole era since Punk had been in a WWE ring. And he walked back in like he'd never left. Given the many backstage issues Punk had in AEW, there was plenty of speculation about how long he would be happy in WWE. But every indication is that Punk was happy and exactly where he wanted to be. That meant something. Because happiness in a wrestling locker room is genuinely rare for CM Punk. He carries a particular intensity, a standard for himself and for everyone around him. That tends to create friction wherever he goes. It's part of what makes him great. It's also part of what has historically made him hard to keep. But in 2023, walking back through WWE's doors, something looked different. He looked settled, focused, like a man who'd been through enough of life outside the ring to actually appreciate what was inside it. The wars with AEW, the injuries, the backstage meltdowns, the ugly departure, all of that seemed to have burned away something that needed to go. What was left was a version of CM Punk that was, at least for a season, genuinely hungry again. He stayed healthy since returning from a torn triceps in 2024, and his health figures to play a big role in how much longer Punk wrestles, as injuries had piled up during his time in AEW as well. The injury issue has been the ticking time bomb underneath every positive headline about his return, because Punk's body has been through the ringer. Multiple surgeries, significant time away from the ring to heal, a UFC detour that put his body through different damage, and before any of that, decades of independent wrestling on floors that had no business hosting a professional wrestling match. The one thing working heavily in Punk's favor is that he doesn't necessarily have as much mileage on him as the typical 47-year-old wrestler. That's the silver lining that the optimists lean on. He was gone from the ring for so long that the wear wasn't accumulating the way it does for someone who worked 200 dates a year for 15 straight years. He had, in a strange way, been preserved by his own stubbornness and his own walkouts. The time off that hurt his career in some ways may have extended it in others. It feels like not all that long ago that CM Punk returned to WWE after nearly 10 years away from the company, but his time in the ring may be closer to wrapping up than some realize. Punk has been a staple of the WWE main event scene since his full-time in-ring return following his injury at the 2024 Royal Rumble Premium Live event. He had come back from the triceps tear and refused to let it slow him down. He clawed his way back to the top of the card with a determination that silenced the people who said his best days were behind him. CM Punk appeared on WWE Raw for the first time since winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. WWE Raw had advertised new WWE World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk, who defeated Jey Uso at WWE Saturday Night's main event. Punk became the world champion on Raw after Seth Rollins suffered an injury at WWE Crown Jewel. It wasn't the coronation moment that everyone had scripted out in their heads. Rollins going down meant the path opened, not in triumph, but in circumstance. But Punk took the opportunity without hesitation, and once that title was on his shoulder, he made it feel like destiny anyway. Punk is a part-time performer who just turned 47 years old. That framing part-time is the one that Punk himself has pushed back against throughout this run. He doesn't think of himself as a part-timer. He shows up, he delivers, he works at a level that embarrasses people half his age. But the reality of the schedule, the premium live event focus, the careful management of his body, that's there regardless of what you want to call it, and it shapes everything about how WWE uses him, values him, and plans around him. When you're 47, every loss carries a different weight. Every title change feels more permanent. When Roman Reigns takes a championship from a 25-year-old, you know that 25-year-old will be back in the mix next month. Next year, with decades of runway ahead of them, when Reigns takes it from Punk, at 47, carrying a history of exits and injuries, the question is different. The question is, what comes after? Fightful Select shared a report on WWE merchandise sales at WrestleMania, and according to the report, Punk was the top merchandise mover at the event. Sean Ross Sapp reported that Punk emerged as the top merchandise seller inside the stadium. The report also noted that Punk, who main evented Night 2 of WrestleMania for the first time in his career, has consistently delivered strong merchandise numbers throughout his WWE return run. Those numbers tell a story that goes beyond the in-ring product. Punk connects with fans in a way that translates to dollars, in a measurable, undeniable way. WWE knows that. They've always known that. It's why the release rumors got so loudly shot down, because the last thing the company wants is to let that revenue walk out the door again. The merchandise success also speaks to something that's easy to forget in the middle of all the rumor mongering. Punk is still one of the most over people in wrestling. Fans still feel something when his music hits. They still buy his shirts, they still chant his name in arenas across the country when he's not even there. That connection is rare and real, and it doesn't come with an expiration date stamped on it the way that athletic ability does. But there's a difference between being beloved and being healthy, between being over with the fans and being at peace with the company. And it's in that gap where all the trouble tends to live. Since losing the title, social media has been flooded with claims regarding Punk's relationship with WWE, including rumors that he was unhappy over matters involving his wife, AJ Lee, and speculation that he was attempting to leave the company. The AJ Lee angle to this story is one that a lot of people haven't fully processed yet. Because it's not just about whether one rumor is true or false, it's about the fact that Punk, who married Lee in 2014 and has been protective of her with a fierceness that borders on legend, watched his wife come back to the company she'd left, have a run, win a championship, and then lose it at the biggest show of the year. WWE star AJ Lee lost the Women's Intercontinental Championship to Becky Lynch on the first night of WrestleMania 42 in April. On the same weekend that Punk was in the main event, defending his own title, his wife was losing hers. And then both of them disappeared from TV. Not just Punk, AJ Lee too. Gone from programming, no explanation. That double absence is the kind of thing that fuels speculation at a pace that's almost impossible to contain. Rumors suggested that the reason for Punk's issues was frustration towards the booking and treatment of his wife, AJ Lee, during her recent run with the company. Lee herself is not factored into any of WWE's imminent plans. And while that could end up changing, the plan was never for her to be a full-time wrestler when she returned last year. One of the more widely discussed claims suggested internal issues between Punk and WWE, including alleged frustration over creative direction and the handling of AJ Lee's involvement. Another vague rumor pointed to some kind of incident around WrestleMania season, though it was never clearly defined whether that referred to a separate backstage situation, or the well-documented fan incident where Punk slapped a phone out of a disruptive fan's hand while they were harassing AJ Lee and Bayley. That fan incident is worth sitting with for a second because it tells you something specific about the kind of husband and the kind of man that Punk is. A fan was filming Lee and Bayley without their consent, even after Bayley had explicitly asked them to stop. And Punk, without hesitation, without calculation, without thinking about how it might look, slapped the phone out of the person's hand. Protective, immediate, unapologetic. Internally, that moment was not treated as a major disciplinary issue. But it became part of the fog of rumors anyway, folded into a broader narrative about a man who was on the edge, who had heat, who was collecting problems the way some wrestlers collect championships. Fightful Select addressed claims of internal issues between WWE and Punk, allegedly frustrated over his creative direction and his wife's involvement in storylines. The publication also mentioned there were rumors of a backstage incident during WrestleMania 42 season involving Punk, but nothing was clearly defined. The creative direction complaint is the one that cuts the deepest, historically, because this is exactly the kind of grievance that burned Punk's first WWE tenure to the ground. He felt undervalued. He felt like the company wasn't committed to making him the guy. He watched decisions get made that he believed were wrong. And instead of swallowing it, he let the bitterness compound over years until it became something that couldn't be managed. And then he quit on the day of his contract expiration without telling almost anyone. The fans who were there for all of that remember. They carry that memory. And so when the words "frustrated over creative direction" show up in a backstage report, no matter how unverified, no matter how loudly it gets shot down, something tightens in your gut. Because you know what that phrase has meant before. A different rumor claimed that Punk asked for something specific at WrestleMania and ended up getting heat from TKO executives as a result, and that he was seen saying his goodbyes at the show. None of these rumors are believed to be true, but believed to be true and definitively disproven are different things. And in the absence of Punk himself saying anything, No interview, no tweet, no backstage segment. The vacuum keeps filling up. The rumors of Punk being mad over something about AJ were scoffed at internally, as the plans for Lee's return and run were pretty well planned from the time she came back, and she completed that run. That's the company line, and there's no reason to assume it's false. But the plans were set doesn't necessarily mean everyone was happy with the plans. It doesn't mean Punk thought the plans were the right ones. It doesn't mean watching his wife lose a championship on the biggest night of the year felt fine to him. According to Fightful Select, the AJ Lee-related claims don't align with what sources within WWE have been saying behind the scenes. The report noted that WWE personnel familiar with AJ Lee's return indicated that her comeback and subsequent run were planned well in advance. So the official story is, everything was planned, nobody has heat. Punk is fine, he's just taking time off. And maybe that's exactly true. But the circumstances, the loss, the disappearance, the retirement admission, the wife also vanishing from TV, stack on top of each other in a way that doesn't feel random. It feels like a man who has reached a crossroads, who is weighing something, who hasn't decided yet. CM Punk had made it clear before that he was not thinking about retirement, but he then went further and called out the constant questions. After previously stating that he did not see retirement happening anytime soon, Punk addressed the topic again in a February 2026 interview with Metro UK. This time, he admitted he was growing tired of being repeatedly asked when he planned to hang it up. That frustration is interesting, isn't it? A man who has no intention of retiring doesn't usually get visibly annoyed when people ask about it. The irritation itself suggests that the question lands somewhere tender, that it's asking about something real. Punk pointed to one legend in particular as an example of how the narrative differs for other veterans. He mentioned that he finds inspiration in Rey Mysterio because he feels as though nobody is constantly pestering the masked icon about his exit date. The comparison to Mysterio is telling, because Rey keeps going, past all the ages where people said he should stop, and nobody bats an eye. He just wrestles. The question is whether Punk can achieve that same kind of peace with his own longevity, or whether the circumstances of his career, the history of the exits, the expectations he created for himself, will make it impossible for him to just quietly keep going. Ever since making his return at WWE Survivor Series 2023, CM Punk has been at odds with Seth Rollins on a major level. Punk and Rollins have battled on several different occasions, whether it be for championship gold or inside of a steel cage. If Punk is going to retire, there might not be a better option on the roster, with more history and better suited to deliver a quality final bout for the Second City Saint than Seth Rollins. The bookending quality of that rivalry is something that the most devoted fans have been whispering about. Rollins and Punk walked back into WWE in the same era, rebuilt their careers at the same altitude, and have circled each other like two celestial bodies that keep pulling each other into orbit. If Punk's career ends with one more war with Rollins, inside a cell, or in the middle of a ring at WrestleMania with everything on the line, that's a story worth hanging on for. But first, he has to come back. And right now, that's the only question anyone cares about. Being unhappy with WWE's creative team, asking for his release, and getting involved in a backstage dispute at WrestleMania are just a few of the CM Punk rumors that have made headlines as of late. None of those three things were confirmed by anyone with credibility, but all three of them spread across the wrestling internet at the speed of wildfire. And once a rumor like that takes root, especially with a man who has Punk's particular history, it becomes almost impossible to fully extinguish. The mechanics of wrestling rumor mills are fascinating and frustrating in equal measure. The cycle goes like this. A top star goes missing from TV without explanation. A faceless account on Twitter posts something vague and alarming. That post gets screenshotted and shared by someone with a larger platform who adds a speculative layer on top of it. Then a dirt sheet picks it up and runs it as a rumor circulating online, which gives it the appearance of reported legitimacy. Within 48 hours, it's being treated as established fact in comment sections across every wrestling forum on the internet. Rumors of Punk requesting his release are strongly denied by WWE sources. But those denials came after the damage was done, after the narrative had already calcified in the minds of a fan base that was primed by history to believe the worst. According to Mike Johnson of PW Insider, sources within WWE have strongly pushed back on the claims. In speaking with a trusted WWE source today, their only comment was, "It has as much truth to it as the stories that claimed Saudi Arabia bought us years ago." That quote is as dismissive as denial gets. Whoever that WWE source is, they weren't trying to nuance their way through a PR crisis. They were telling you the rumors were so far off base that they belong in the same category as conspiracy theories. Saudi Arabia buying WWE. That never happened. The point is, this source is saying the release rumors are in that territory. That's the line they drew. Fightful Select reports that nobody in WWE, among the dozens we've spoken to, has heard that Punk wanted out of his WWE contract, and no talent we heard from believed he was asked to take a pay cut. Two different major outlets, multiple sources at both, all pointing in the same direction. And yet the rumors persisted because the silence persisted, because WWE offered no alternative explanation. And because Punk, who has never in his career been afraid to speak his mind, said absolutely nothing. The silence is its own data point. It's not proof of wrongdoing or discontent, but it's also not nothing. There have been several rumors online and social with unverified and unconfirmed reports claiming that CM Punk has had a fallout with WWE TKO, which includes him not getting what he wanted after WrestleMania 42, refusing to take a 50% cut in pay, and working with legal counsel to get out of his current WWE contract. A 50% pay cut, that specific number got attached to the story early and stuck to it like a barnacle, because it's the kind of detail that sounds credible. Specificity creates the illusion of reporting. And the idea that a man who is considered one of the top draws in the company would be asked to take half his salary after headlining WrestleMania, that has just enough outrage logic to it that people ran with it. Both PW Insider and Fightful Select squashed these rumors. The pay cut story, the legal counsel story, the saying goodbye story, all of it, according to the most reliable reporters in the business, has no basis in what people inside WWE are actually saying. But the difference between what insiders say and what the internet believes has always been one of wrestling's most persistent gaps. It has also been reported that Punk has been kept off of television simply because WWE Creative has nothing planned for him, though this reportedly isn't the case. So even that quieter, more benign explanation, Creative just isn't ready, got swatted away, which means the reality is something more specific than they don't have a story for him. They have a story, they just aren't telling it yet, which, in a vacuum of information, somehow makes things feel more dramatic, not less. It's already pretty well understood that Punk's age is a factor and that he's not going to wrestle forever. Part-timing once or twice per year like a Brock Lesnar doesn't seem to be his thing. It's also understood that he wants to do something like working with NXT and/or the Performance Center as a trainer post-in-ring retirement. The trainer angle is fascinating because it speaks to a version of Punk that people rarely discuss. The version that cares deeply about the craft, not just his own performance, but the art of professional wrestling itself. The guy who will happily spend 45 minutes in the parking lot of an independent show talking about the psychology of a match with someone who has zero name value. The guy who, when he talks about wrestling, sounds like someone who genuinely loves it, not as a job, not as a vehicle for fame, but as a thing worth doing well. That love for the craft is what makes the retirement question so complicated, because it's not just about his body holding up or his contract running out. It's about whether the environment he's in is one where that love can breathe. Whether the politics and the scheduling and the creative frustrations and the scrutiny of every move he makes, whether all of that is still worth what he gets in return. Punk is pretty unique in the way he can draw up interest in a meta way. Had the rumor storm not blown up, his eventual return, if not advertised by WWE, would have had a big pop, but otherwise been a surprise that didn't move the needle. Now it's going to jam the needle in WWE's favor. There's going to be palpable hype around his return, as maybe even non-WWE watchers from the AEW side and otherwise keep an ear out for what he says the next time he gets a mic. This is the hidden engine underneath the whole saga. The attention that gets generated by the uncertainty around Punk is itself valuable. Every think piece, every forum thread, every video like this one, it keeps him in the conversation even while he's absent from the screen. And WWE, which has watched Punk generate buzz in ways that very few people in the history of the business can, is not unaware of that dynamic. Whether the absence is entirely deliberate or whether it started as something else and became an asset, the outcome is the same. Punk's return is going to be an event, not just a storyline development, not just a Raw segment, an event, the kind that people who've been away from wrestling tune back in for, the kind that moves numbers. WrestleVotes on Fightful Select reported that there is nothing going on with Punk that is out of the ordinary. WrestleVotes noted that Punk is merely taking time off after appearing in wrestling regularly for the past few years, adding, "He'll be back in no time, right back on top of the card." WrestleVotes noted, "It is not true that they have no plans for CM Punk." PW Insider essentially echoed that report, noting that Punk is expected back on WWE TV in the coming months, and new merchandise is being prepared for his eventual return. New merch. That's the tell. You don't invest in new merchandise for a superstar who you think is leaving or who isn't going to be on TV. Merchandise development takes planning, time, and financial commitment. The fact that it's being prepared tells you, more concretely than any source quote, that WWE is treating Punk's return as a matter of when, not if. One source speaking to Fightful noted that Punk has a story coming up soon, with new merch being produced and dates planned for the summer. Dates planned for the summer. That's the language of a company that knows exactly what it's doing. Not scrambling, not filling gaps. Planning. The absence, for all the noise it created, appears to be a deliberate beat in a larger story. And the story is moving forward. New Punk merchandise and appearances are planned for this summer. So while the internet was eulogizing his career, WWE was making shirts. That tells you something important about the gap between what people fear and what's actually happening. More details have emerged on WWE's blockbuster plans for CM Punk when he returns to television. CM Punk's most recent WWE match took place in the main event of WrestleMania 42. Where he lost the World Heavyweight Championship belt to Roman Reigns. The 47-year-old briefly appeared on the April 20 episode of Raw, where he teased a match with WWE champion Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, that's the thread that everything pulls toward. The two of them standing in that ring, champion and former champion, two men who came back from their own complicated departures, two men who represent different things to the wrestling public, pointing at each other across an invisible line. Rhodes saying "just say when." Punk saying nothing out loud, but everything with his posture. Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk is a dream match in many WWE fans' eyes, and they are itching for it to happen. That's the match that everything is building toward. It's the match that justifies the absence, because coming back to challenge for the WWE Championship is a bigger story than just walking back onto Raw and picking up where you left off. It requires build. It requires the audience to want it badly enough that the moment Punk's music hits, they lose their minds before he even reaches the ring. Rhodes and Punk will presumably square off at SummerSlam 2026 during the August weekend in Minneapolis, Minnesota. As a part-time performer, Punk is usually saved for the marquee pay-per-view shows, and SummerSlam is WWE's second biggest event after WrestleMania. WWE plans CM Punk's return by July 6, moving him to the SmackDown brand. Punk will feud with Cody Rhodes, balancing star power between the brands. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Punk is expected to join SmackDown upon his return. In order to balance out the company's rosters, the brand move is significant. It signals that WWE sees this not as a continuation of where he was, but as a fresh chapter. New brand, new setting, new championship target. Rhodes is the WWE Champion, the top title in the company, the one that Punk has never held in this particular run, the one that would complete something. On Wednesday, multiple reports shut down the recent conversation about Punk, with many sources claiming there was no merit to any animosity between Punk and WWE, and that it's expected that Punk will return to WWE TV in July. July, that's the target. That's the horizon. And suddenly the gap between the man who confirmed he was near the end and the man being planned for SummerSlam feels like it has a bridge across it. Dave Meltzer reported on Wrestling Observer Radio that Punk is staying put in WWE for the long haul, noting that there's still plenty of term on his contract. He's not leaving and he's not going back, okay? I mean, I don't want to say never because you never say never. It's not happening now. It's not even something to be concerned about, Meltzer said. Meltzer is the most connected figure in wrestling journalism over the past several decades. When he says it's not even something to be concerned about, that carries weight. He's not a company mouthpiece. He's not WWE's PR department. He has his own sources and his own read, and he's applying it here without the careful hedging that official statements require. They're not going to release him for him to come back, and he's got a long time left on that deal. Long time left. That's the other piece that keeps getting glossed over in all the panic. Punk isn't on an expiring deal. He isn't in a situation where the clock has run out and both sides are deciding whether to renew. He is under contract for a while, which means the he's leaving narrative doesn't just require belief that he wants to leave. It requires believing he'd blow up a long-term agreement with a company he came back to specifically to finish his career with. The pattern of the rumors, the way they started, spread, got shot down, and then kept cycling anyway, says less about Punk's actual situation and more about the relationship his fan base has with uncertainty. They can't relax when he goes quiet, because the last time he went quiet in WWE, he left forever. The time before that in AEW, he left in the middle of a press conference. The time before that with UFC, he just disappeared into a different sport entirely. Going quiet is Punk's mode of departure. So when he goes quiet, everybody braces. But the reports suggest this isn't that. The reports suggest this is a man taking a breath between chapters, a man who competed at the highest level, main event of WrestleMania, World Heavyweight Champion, for over a year without significant time off. A man whose body, at 47, deserves a longer runway between major appearances than the one WWE's television schedule normally allows. The fear is real. The history that creates the fear is real. But the specific catastrophe that the internet was dreading, the exit, the release, the blow-up, the evidence says it didn't happen. What did happen is something more interesting, and in some ways more sobering. What happened is a man telling you in his own words that the end is coming. Not today, not next month, probably, but coming. And everything that followed, the absence, the rumors, the silence, is the wrestling world trying to come to terms with that. Go back to that moment in Japan. Punk standing with WWE's digital team, surrounded by the country that has treated professional wrestling as a sacred art form for over half a century. The setting matters. Japan has always been a place where wrestlers get reflective, where the reverence for the craft strips away the performance and you see something closer to the truth. And what Punk said in that moment had the quality of truth. Not a worked comment, not a character talking, a person. So I'm standing here now, near the end of my career. You know, John Cena's calling it quits. AJ Styles says he's going to retire next year, and I don't know how much time I've got left, Punk said. The phrasing is precise in a way that matters. Near the end, not eventually I'll retire, not someday the body will give out. Near the end, present tense proximity, the kind of language that implies awareness of distance, of a finish line becoming visible on the horizon that it wasn't before. I know that's sooner rather than later. That's why I think it's important for all of us, not just me, to celebrate every wrestler as they retire. That sentence, sooner rather than later, is the one that should have landed with more weight than it did at the time. Because Punk was sitting at the top of the card holding a championship, heading into his second straight WrestleMania main event. People heard the words and filed them away under humble veteran sentiment. They should have heard them as what they actually were, a timeline. Ever since John Cena began his retirement tour, CM Punk had faced questions about when his career might come to a close. His responses had been somewhat vague, but then he provided an actual number for the age at which he could look to hang up his boots. Cena's retirement tour changed the atmosphere for every veteran on the WWE roster. Because Cena wasn't just leaving, he was leaving in a way that acknowledged what leaving means. Emotional arenas. Final goodbye moments in cities that shaped his career. A whole year of telling people this chapter was closing. That kind of exit forces everyone around it to reckon with their own mortality in the business. And for someone like Punk, who already carries so much complexity in his relationship with the industry, who has left and returned, watching Cena do it with grace must have prompted some serious internal inventory. Punk's continued presence at the top of the WWE card is a testament to his enduring popularity and the company's faith in his drawing power. Even as other longtime peers like John Cena and AJ Styles have announced their retirements, that's the thing about watching your generation leave. It clarifies your position on the timeline in a way that nothing else can. You're no longer defined only by what you've done. You're suddenly being defined by how close you are to being done. And for a man as self-aware as Punk, that shift is not subtle. Punk addressed the retirement topic in a February 2026 interview with Metro UK. He admitted he was growing tired of being repeatedly asked when he planned to hang it up. The irritation is an understandable reaction, but it's also the reaction of someone for whom the question isn't entirely abstract. If retirement felt genuinely far away, if the idea of stopping had no real purchase on his actual thinking, questions about it would roll off the way that irrelevant questions do. The fact that they land hard enough to produce visible frustration suggests the question is hitting something true. Rey Mysterio is a guy that inspires me because I feel like nobody's asking him, "Oh, hey, when you're gonna retire?" The Mysterio comparison keeps coming up, and it's worth dwelling on why. Punk sees in Mysterio something he wants for himself, the ability to just keep going, past the age where people expect you to stop, without every performance being framed as potentially your last. He wants to be allowed to wrestle, without the countdown clock attached to every match. But here's the thing about that comparison. Mysterio exists in a different relationship with expectation. His longevity surprises people but doesn't threaten them, because Mysterio never walked away. He never gave anyone reason to worry. Punk, by contrast, has walked away twice, each time in circumstances that stung. His fans don't ask about retirement because they're being cruel. They ask because the history has conditioned them to expect loss. Every question about when he's going to leave is really a question about whether he's going to leave. Punk turned 47 in October, but it can be argued that he is still at the top of his game. He is one of the faces of WWE. He was among the top performers in all of pro wrestling in 2025, and he had been world champion since November. The quality of the work in this run has been undeniable. Every major match he's had since coming back against Seth Rollins, against Drew McIntyre, against Gunther, against Jey Uso, against Roman Reigns, has delivered at a level that silenced the skeptics. He didn't come back as a legend getting one last run. He came back as an active competitor and competed as one. He was involved in marquee matches at SummerSlam 2024 and 2025, a loss to Drew McIntyre and a win over Gunther, respectively. The SummerSlam record is particularly instructive. 2 consecutive years at the second biggest show in wrestling. 2 different opponents. Different outcomes. Different stories. The range of what he's done in this run, the variety of feuds, the different narrative positions he's occupied, speaks to someone who is genuinely engaged with the product, not sleepwalking through a victory lap. But the body is always the wild card. He stayed healthy since returning from the torn triceps in 2024, and his health figures to play a big role in how much longer Punk wrestles, as injuries had piled up during his time in AEW as well. One bad landing, one awkward fall, one moment where the surgery doesn't hold or something new tears, and all of it can change overnight. That's not doomsaying. That's just the reality of being a professional athlete pushing 50 in a combat sport. Former WWE head writer Vince Russo claimed Punk should headline WrestleMania this year, due to his age and the 46-year-old allegedly being injury-prone. The wrestling veteran pointed out that Punk's future in the company was uncertain. Russo is a controversial figure whose opinions on current WWE rarely age well, but the injury-prone observation is one that has currency regardless of source. And the idea that you have to use a performer like Punk in the biggest moments while you can, because you can't always predict when the window closes, that logic is sound. WWE made exactly that calculation. They gave him the title. They gave him the WrestleMania main event, 2 years running. They treated the moment with urgency because everyone understood on some level that the window isn't infinite. And in doing so, they got the best version of what this run was ever going to be. Championship reign, main events, merch dominance, the kind of run that writes its own chapter in the history books. CM Punk has built a celebrated career through World Championship reigns, Money in the Bank victories, major rivalries, and headline performances across multiple promotions. From the summer of Punk to his WWE return, CM Punk remains one of the most influential and talked about performers of his generation. That legacy is already sealed, regardless of what happens next. The career is already one of the greatest in the history of the business. The question now isn't whether Punk has achieved enough. It's whether he has the desire, the health, and the right circumstances to achieve whatever comes after. When Punk decides it is time, his retiring should be one of the biggest angles in the company, to cap off one of the most iconic names in history. There's a version of Punk's farewell that could be the most emotionally resonant event in wrestling in a decade, done right, with the right opponent, the right setting, the right storyline, the right crowd. It could be one of those moments that people pass down, the way people pass down Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26, the way people pass down Eddie Guerrero's first championship win. But that requires willingness from the man. And willingness requires a Punk who feels, in the moment of his exit, that the business deserves the version of him that shows up for a proper goodbye. The first time he left, he didn't think it did. He walked out without ceremony. The second time in AEW, the ending was chaotic and adversarial. A third departure, if one comes, seems like it would carry a different weight for a man who has watched Cena and Styles and others choose to go out with their heads high. 2025 and 2026 have seen a litany of legends hanging up their boots for good. With these stars leaving, it has led to CM Punk getting questions about potentially retiring from in-ring competition after nearly 30 years in the business. Nearly 30 years, that number deserves a breath. Think about what a 30-year career in professional wrestling does to a body, to a mind, to the relationships between a man and the audience that has followed him. 30 years of being CM Punk, which means 30 years of being the loudest, most opinionated, most complicated, most beloved, and most divisive figure in whatever room he's standing in. His second WWE Championship title reign lasted 434 days and remains the sixth longest in the company's history. That reign, the one that started in 2011, that began with him sitting on the stage and talking directly to the audience in a way that hadn't been done before, that's the reign people think of when they think of Punk. The summer of Punk, the pipe bomb, the walkout with the championship, the moment that made him into something more than a great professional wrestler. It made him into a symbol for everyone who'd ever felt like the establishment wasn't giving them what they deserved. That symbol has followed him everywhere, into AEW, into UFC, back into WWE, It's the thing that makes every entrance land a little heavier. It's the thing that makes every retirement question feel like it carries stakes beyond just one man's career decisions. Because losing CM Punk to retirement isn't just losing a performer. It's losing a specific voice, a specific kind of defiance, a specific reminder that the wrestling business, as enormous and corporate and carefully managed as it has become, still has room for someone who just flat out refuses to play by the rules he didn't write. Punk told Cinema Blend, "I would estimate probably the big 50 is when I should maybe gracefully bow out. 3 years. Potentially 3 more years of CM Punk at or near the top of wrestling. If the body holds, if the fire stays lit, if the circumstances stay right. 3 more years is a SummerSlam against Cody Rhodes, a feud with Seth Rollins. That ends something definitively. A title match in Chicago that brings the United Center to its absolute limit. A WrestleMania moment that closes the circle. But that's the hopeful version, the version that assumes the road between here and 50 is smooth. That assumes no injuries, no friction, no moments where the cost-benefit of another match tips the wrong way. Real careers don't unfold in straight lines. They unfold in the same jagged, unpredictable way that Punk's has always unfolded, with sudden turns, unexpected pauses, and a protagonist who has demonstrated repeatedly that he answers to no one's script but his own. When asked by a fan about retirement during a GQ YouTube appearance, Punk said, "I'll filth retire whenever I want to. There's work to be done." That's the version of him that's easy to love and impossible to argue with. Work to be done. The implication that retirement is a decision made on his terms, in his time, when he decides the work is finished, not when the internet decides, not when contracts expire, not when a title loss creates a convenient ending point. There is still work to be done. The question is whether all the conditions are still in place for him to do it. WWE plans CM Punk's return by July 6, moving him to the SmackDown brand. Punk will feud with Cody Rhodes, balancing star power between the brands. That's the roadmap, according to the Wrestling Observer. And if it plays out the way it's drawn up, then what looked for weeks like a catastrophe in slow motion will resolve itself into exactly what it was, a deliberate pause before one of the biggest matchups that professional wrestling can offer right now. Rhodes versus Punk. Think about what that match represents. Cody Rhodes, who came back from AEW to fulfill a destiny he'd been chasing his whole career, who won the title at WrestleMania 40 in front of a crowd that was screaming so loud you could feel it through a television screen, who has turned himself into the face of the company in a way that surprised even his most committed believers. And CM Punk, who came back from an even longer exile, who fought his way through injuries and politics and his own complicated psychology, who main evented back-to-back WrestleManias and proved that what he said about being the best in the world wasn't ego talking. It was just true. Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk is a dream match in many WWE fans' eyes, and they are itching for it to happen. The match hasn't happened yet, not in a featured championship-level context, and the restraint to save it, to not burn it off on a random Raw or bury it in a show that doesn't deserve it, suggests that both the talent and the company understand what they have. You don't spend that kind of match. You invest it. You let the anticipation build to the point where the building almost can't contain the energy when the bell rings. It has been reported that CM Punk will be part of SummerSlam 2026 on the August 1-2 weekend in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Minneapolis, not Punk's hometown, but close enough to the Midwest that the crowd energy is going to be a factor. And SummerSlam, more than almost any other event on the WWE calendar, has a history of producing moments that define careers. The second biggest show, the one where, historically, major things happen and major things end. The one where you want to be if you're a superstar trying to cement something in the record books. Rhodes and Punk will presumably square off at SummerSlam 2026 during the August 1-2 weekend in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If that match happens, And every indication right now is that it will. Then the story of the disappearing act, the rumors, the retirement admission, all of it snaps into focus as the setup for something that was always going to be the story. Punk comes back. Punk challenges for the top title, the match that the audience has been promised in various unspoken ways since that moment in the ring where Cody said, "Just say when." Following his loss to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, Punk appeared on the Raw after, where he declared that he's not going away and will be on Raw every week to earn his way back to the top. He also seemingly hinted that he is going after Cody Rhodes' undisputed WWE Championship in the near future. "I'm not going away." Those were his words in the ring. And then he went away, at least from TV, for 2 months. But the message he set in motion, the trajectory he pointed at, was always toward Cody, toward the championship that he hasn't held, toward the match that would put both men's second chapters at the center of the wrestling world's attention in a way that nothing else can. After Reigns won the 2026 Men's Royal Rumble match, he chose to challenge CM Punk rather than Cody Rhodes, so the Reigns chapter got written first. Punk defended against Roman. Punk lost to Roman. Roman's reign ended before Punk and Cody ever had to reckon with each other. Now there's nothing between them. No other major feud to resolve. No other story pulling either man's attention elsewhere. Just the two of them and the title and the question of who goes home from Minneapolis with something to show for it. When a superstar returns to WWE, there is almost always unfinished business. While CM Punk had done it all, there was one thing he still hadn't done in the Stamford-based promotion when he left the company in 2014. He had not main evented WrestleMania. He's done that now. Both nights. The original unfinished business is finished, which means what drives him now is different. It's not the thing he came back to do. It's the thing he discovers he still wants after having done that thing. When speaking to WWE Now, Punk was asked if his younger version would be satisfied after main eventing against Roman Reigns. That's the question. Underneath all the other questions, would the younger version of Philip Jack Brooks, the kid from Chicago who became CM Punk on independent shows that drew 50 people, who scratched and clawed and burned bridges and built them back and burned them again, would that kid look at where things stand right now and feel like it was enough? The answer Punk gave suggested that there's still something in him that isn't fully satisfied. Not in a destructive way. Not in the way that has historically produced exits and fallouts and meltdowns. More in the way of a craftsman who can still see work to be done and still has the skill to do it. Known as the best in the world and the Second City Saint, Punk built a major career through WWE, Ring of Honor, and All Elite Wrestling. That trajectory, independent ROH, WWE, UFC, AEW, WE again, is unlike any other career in professional wrestling. It's not a straight line. It's not even a zigzag. It's a map drawn by a man who kept following the thing that interested him most at any given moment, regardless of whether it was the safe choice or the smart choice or the choice that anyone watching from outside could have predicted. That quality, the refusal to live someone else's career, is what has made him simultaneously the most compelling and most exhausting figure in professional wrestling for over a decade. You never quite know where he's going next. You never know if the stability is going to hold or whether something is going to crack. And right now, in this particular silence, that uncertainty is doing what it always does. It's making everyone watch. It's making everyone lean forward. It's making every week without him feel like a week that could end with him walking back out. Photos surfaced online of CM Punk looking more jacked than when fans last saw him after WrestleMania 42. That detail matters more than it might seem. Because a man who is genuinely done, who is quietly negotiating his exit or preparing to walk away, doesn't spend his time off in the gym, getting into the kind of shape that prompts photos to circulate online. A man who looks like that in the off-season is preparing for something. He's building toward a moment. He's treating his body like it has work to do. photos drew steroid allegations from a 41-year-old star who threw apparent shade at Punk. Because this is professional wrestling, the existence of photos of Punk looking impressive in the off-season immediately generated a controversy about how he looks impressive. That's the environment he operates in, where even evidence of his dedication to his craft becomes ammunition for someone else's grievance. Ryback stepped in to defend him because of course Ryback did, and the whole thing became another news cycle in the ongoing soap opera of CM Punk's public existence. But strip away the noise. The photos tell a story. The body that Punk is walking around in right now is not the body of a man winding down. It's the body of a man gearing up. And gearing up for what, if not the match that's been circling in the distance since April? Triple H is allegedly not calling all the shots in WWE anymore, and CM Punk is set for Fanatics Fest. The Fanatics Fest booking is significant because it's a public-facing commitment. This isn't a source whispering to a dirt sheet. This is Punk booked for an event, booked publicly for the summer, which puts a pin in all the departure speculation in a way that no amount of denial can quite match. You don't book a man you're losing for a fan event. You don't make those arrangements and announce them if the situation is unstable. The Triple H angle is a different story, one that has its own layers and implications for the broader direction of WWE. But as it relates to Punk specifically, what matters is that the decision makers, whoever they are, have him in their summer plans on screen, at events, in the machine that is WWE in 2026, which is still the biggest wrestling company in the world by an enormous margin. And still the only place where a CM Punk return to the top of the card generates the kind of cultural conversation that it does. A rumor roundup from June 12, 2026 mentions WWE plans for SummerSlam and CM Punk in AEW. The AEW rumor is worth acknowledging because it never fully goes away. There are people within that world who believe the door isn't permanently closed. There's history. There's Tony Khan, who would unquestionably want Punk back under the right circumstances. There's a version of the pro wrestling landscape where Punk, at the tail end of his career, makes one more cross-promotional move for reasons of legacy or creative satisfaction or simple restlessness. But the evidence, the contract, the reports, the merchandise, the Fanatics Fest booking, the SmackDown move, all of it points in one direction, and that direction isn't Atlanta. Reigns and Rhodes have been two of the biggest rivals in wrestling over the past several years, as they faced each other in the main event of WrestleMania 39 and 40. While Reigns won the first encounter, Rhodes got revenge at WrestleMania 40, ending Roman's 316-day reign as world champion. After Reigns won the 2026 Men's Royal Rumble match, he instead chose to challenge CM Punk. The interlocking storylines of Punk, Reigns, and Rhodes over the past two WrestleManias have created a triangle of unresolved tension that SummerSlam seems designed to begin closing. Reigns beat Punk, Rhodes holds the championship, Punk points at Rhodes. That's not a complicated equation. It's a clean, simple story with enormous stakes on both sides. Rhodes winning a SummerSlam against Punk is a different kind of victory than anything else he's won. It doesn't just add to the resume, it defines the era. It says, this is the guy who inherited the company from the legends, and then defended it against the most credible challenger the old guard had to offer. Punk winning. That's the story of a man who told you the end was coming, watched everyone doubt whether he had anything left, and then stood in the middle of a ring in Minneapolis, arm raised, holding the top championship in the company. That's not a victory. That's a statement. I'm going to keep going until the wheels fall off. That's still the operating principle. The wheels are still on. The body, according to the images circulating from the off-season, looks better than it has in years. The plans are being made. The merchandise is being produced. The SmackDown move is being mapped out. And somewhere in whatever hotel room or training facility or quiet corner of Chicago CM Punk is currently occupying, a man who has spent 30 years being the most unpredictable person in professional wrestling is preparing for one more thing. It's already pretty well understood that Punk's age is a factor and that he's not going to wrestle forever. Part-timing once or twice per year, like a Brock Lesnar, doesn't seem to be his thing. It's also understood that he wants to do something like working with NXT and/or the Performance Center. As a trainer post-in-ring retirement, the post-career vision is already being thought about, which means Punk isn't operating in denial about where the road ends. He sees the horizon. He's not pretending it isn't there. He's just choosing, for now, not to walk toward it any faster than he has to. What he confirmed with his own words, in his own voice, in that candid Japan conversation, is that the horizon exists and that it's closer than it used to be. That's the thing we all feared. Not that he was leaving right now, but that he knows he's near the end, that the countdown has started, that the window for seeing CM Punk in a WWE ring, doing what he does, at the level he does it, against opponents who bring out the best in him, is narrower than any of us want to admit. Every match from here on is one fewer match that's left. The story of this latest chapter, the WrestleMania loss, the vanishing act, the rumor storm, the silence, is not the story of a man falling apart. It's the story of a man in transition. From champion to challenger, from Raw to SmackDown, from the peak of one run to the launch of the next. And the fear that his words in Japan created isn't a fear that should paralyze. It's the kind of fear that makes you pay attention. Because if we know the end is coming, if Punk himself has told us it's sooner rather than later, then the right response isn't to spend the remaining time dreading the finish. It's to watch, to be there, to let the remaining chapters land the way chapters are supposed to land when you know the book is going to close. In a Shake Wrestling interview, Punk described the game's showcase mode as a story that spans his entire career, emphasizing that the end is not near. That was in January, before WrestleMania, before the title loss, before the disappearance. Maybe the end being near or not near is a matter of perspective, and maybe Punk's perspective has shifted in the months since he said that. Or maybe both things are true at once. The end is closer than it was, and it's still not yet. There is still work to be done. He said so himself. And if you've watched this man work, you know that when he commits to doing something, he does it in a way that makes everyone else raise their standard to keep up. So this is not a eulogy, it's a warning. Pay attention, because a man who has confirmed he's near the end, who is still in the shape of his life, who is being booked for the biggest matches on the biggest stage in the